After having learned full updates, we'll now look into how we can improve partial updates in this demo. Let's uncomment the partially update point of interest action. And let's have a look. The way to go about this is a little bit different than what we're used to up until now. As you remember, this one accepts a JSON patch document. Important fact here is that the patch document is on the DTO and not directly on the entity, as we shouldn't expose entity implementation details to the outer-facing layer. So we will have to find our entity first and then map it to a DTO before applying the patch document. As we're used to by now, this will result in async calls into our database, so we mark the action with the async modifier, and we make sure that it returns a task of action result. Alright, the first thing to do is check whether or not the city exists. The old check here can be deleted, and we add a new check we call into city exists async, as we're used to by now. If the city doesn't exist, we return a not found. And then we need to get the point of interest entity. So we can get rid of this old code and replace it with a call into getPointOfInterest for city async. If it's not found, we return a not found. So far, so good. This is the same as what we did for full updates. Then we'll have to map the entity to a DTO. More specifically, we'll have to map it to a point of interest for update DTO, as that is what the patch document works on. So we can get rid of this code to get the point of interest to patch and switch it out for a mapper.map statement to get to the point of interest to patch. We pass through the entity and we map it to a point of interest for update DTO. We haven't created a map for that yet, so we need to add a create map statement to our profile. Let's open the point of interest profile and let's add that statement. It's a map from the point of interest entity to the point of interest for update DTO. Back to our controller. We apply the patch document to the point of interest to patch. After that, we validate. This is the same code as what we had before, and this can stay as is. The validation has to happen on the DTO after the patch document has been applied to see if it is still valid. From this moment on, the DTO we just created has the correctly patched properties and is valid. Now we can map those changes back into the entity. For that we can use the mapper.map statement in which we passed in the source object, which is the patch DTO, and the destination object, which is the entity. As we know from the previous demo, this results in the point of interest entity to contain the changes that were applied to the point of interest to patch DTO. We no longer need this manual mapping code here. All we do need to do now is save the changes. So we call into save changes async on our repository. If all works out, we return a no content. Let's give that a try. We've got a patch statement lined up here to replace the name of Central Park to updated again Central Park. Remember, we're now working with a database which persists the changes. Let's send that request. We get back a 204 no content, looking good. Just to check whether the changes have been applied, let's get this point of interest. And there we go, the name has been changed to updated again Central Park. Our patch operation is successfully implemented. There's just one action left, the delete action.